Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Rick Harp. We begin tonight in Battleford, Saskatchewan, where the first day of the Gerald Stanley trial got underway. Stanley is charged with second-degree murder in the shooting death of 22-year-old Colton Bushy. APTN's Chris Stewart is covering the trial.
The Gerald Stanley trial began with the dismissing of 2 jurors for travel problems. The 7-woman, 5-man jury is made up of no visible Indigenous people. Colton Bushy's relative, Alvin Baptiste, is here for the trial. He is disappointed that not a single Indigenous person is on the jury.
Well, I wasn't there to attend the jury selection, no, but you know, now I see the jury and so far I'm not too happy with that. I don't see any Indigenous people that are in the jury, and it seems unfair.
Baptiste is still hopeful for a fair trial.
Right now, you know, I'm hoping for the jury won't be biased, and they will take the evidence and whatever the evidence that's unfolding there, that they will come to a verdict.
Prosecutor Bill Burrs' opening statement told of how Colton Bushy and friends arrived on Gerald Stanley's farm. The prosecutor said Gerald Stanley told police the car drove towards a truck on the farm and that someone got into the truck. Burgess told the court that Gerald Stanley's son, Sheldon, heard 3 gunshots. The son saw his father beside the driver's side of the car with a slumped-over Bushy. Burrs told the court with the witnesses they will offer, it could be a short trial. The first of 10 witnesses to testify for the Crown was Corporal Terry Heroux of the RCMP. He is a forensics identification specialist. He arrived on the crime scene the night of Bushy's death. Hundreds of photos were taken. Bushy's mother, Debbie Baptiste, left when told about the graphic photos. Heroux showed the court photos of Bushy's body outside the 2003 Ford Escape. Outside and inside the car was a large amount of what the corporal called a red substance consistent with blood. Over 10 firearms were found at Stanley's farm. Prosecutor Bill Burrs, in his opening statement, said that a semi-automatic handgun found in the house had Bushy's DNA on it. The prosecution is hoping to finish by Friday. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Battleford, Saskatchewan.
Meanwhile, in Winnipeg, it's day 2 of the Raymond Cormier trial. He's charged with second-degree murder in connection to the death of 15-year-old Tina Fontaine. Today, the court heard the testimony of a toxicology expert. Here with her latest rundown, here's Brittany Hobson.
On day 2 of the Tina Fontaine murder trial, court heard a little bit more about her final days. Toxicology results from Tina's autopsy showed that the teen died with trace amounts of alcohol and THC or cannabis in her system. The Crown called toxicology analyst Christopher Keddy to talk about those results. And he said that while there were high amounts of THC in her system, that combined with alcohol would not prove to be lethal. Was also questioned whether she had other trace amounts of drugs or narcotics in her system at the time. It was determined that there may have been trace amounts of cocaine in her system at the time, but due to the degradation of her body was found in water, believed to be in water for a number of days. Any of that was washed away along with DNA, so Keddy couldn't confirm whether or not she had cocaine or other drugs in her body. It was also heard that on the day that she went missing, August 8th, 2014, Tina was admitted to the Health Science Center. There she told a nurse that she had taken a prescription drug called gabapentin, or otherwise known on the street as Gabbies. The drug is most commonly used for people that experience seizures, but can be used recreationally. Now, it wasn't determined whether or not she had that drug in her system at the time of her death. All he could say was that it was possible, but there were not enough trace amounts of it in her system at the time of her death. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
If you'd like to share your thoughts about this or any other story you see on the broadcast, here's how to get in touch. Send an email to news@aptn.ca. Follow us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter @APTN News, or go to our website, aptnnews.ca. It was an attack that made national headlines for its sheer cruelty. A year ago, Barbara Kentner was walking when she was hit by a trailer hitch in Thunder Bay, thrown from a passing car. Months later, she succumbed from those injuries, and last night, a vigil and round dance was held in Kentner's honor. APTN's Willow Fiddler was there.
Barbara Kentner was walking down this Thunder Bay street 1 year ago. As a vehicle drove by, someone threw a trailer hitch out the window, hitting Barbara in the abdomen. Her sister Melissa, walking in front of her, heard someone yell, "I got one." 6 months later, Barbara died as a result of injuries from that attack. On the anniversary of that tragic night, more than 100 community members honored Barb and her family.
Her daughter cries almost every night for her mother. And it's really hard, but still, she's trying. She's trying to, be strong and trying to let her mom go, but it's still very hard.
The Vigil and Round Dance was organized by these women.
I don't want anyone to forget what happened to her,
Barb's sister Melissa felt forced to move her family out of Thunder Bay following Barb's death. She said her kids were being threatened. They returned for Barb's vigil.
I don't know, I just kept on watching to see where my kids are at all times. And watching the vehicles, the ones that were going by, and just worried about my kids, making sure they're with one of my family members, beside one at all times.
Vigil organizer Trevina Andy also worries for her children's safety.
I have a 4-year-old daughter that I've chosen to raise in Thunder Bay, and acts like this has made me question whether or not I want her to grow up in this kind of environment.
The turnout and community support meant a lot to Vigil organizer Rachel Katropa.
It's important for the non-Indigenous community to kind of speak up and support the Indigenous community, because this isn't something that's just affecting the Indigenous community in Thunder Bay. It's affecting our community as a whole.
While there's still a lot of work to be done to address racism and violence, organizers still feel events like this are important.
But for now, gatherings like this are a way that we can help bring awareness to combat these types of things.
Braden Bushby, who was 18 at the time, is charged with second-degree murder for the death of Barbara Kentner. He is scheduled to be back in court on February 16. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
Time for a break. When we return, we'll hear about new legal action over so-called Indian hospitals. Find out why former patients are seeking over $1 billion for their experiences there. First up, your latest weather. Cloudy and 6 in St. John's, -9 and sunny in Charlottetown. Inukjuak, -24, partly cloudy. Cartwright, -2 and snow. Saguenay, -13 and sunny. Val-d'Or, -9, clouds. London, a snowy 0. North Bay, -4 under cloudy skies. Big Trout Lake, snow, -16. Sudbury, snow, -3. Churchill, partly cloudy, -27. The Paw, partly cloudy, -20. Dauphin, -19, partly cloudy. Winnipeg, partly cloudy, -17. Saskatoon, -18, partly cloudy. Estevan, -16 under partly cloudy skies. Stony Rapids, a sunny -27. Meadow Lake, -19 with some clouds. Thanks for staying with us. Former patients of Canada's so-called Indian hospitals are suing the government for over $1 billion. Lawyers for what could be thousands of Indigenous patients filed the class action lawsuit last week. They say they're seeking compensation for physical and sexual abuse. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Carolyn Bennett has responded by saying she hopes the matter can be settled quickly because reconciliation doesn't happen in a courtroom. Virtually every jurisdiction in Canada has announced how they will accommodate Canada's new marijuana laws, with one exception, Nunavut. But as Kent Driscoll explains, details are beginning to emerge.
In Inuktitut, it's called Maluksi. In English, marijuana. To prepare for the upcoming legalization of Maluksi, the government of Nunavut launched a survey, and the results tell us Nunavummiut like Maluxy. A lot. 1 in 4 Nunavut residents 12 and older say they've had a cannabis product in the last year. 1 out of every 10 say they smoke it every day. Adam Lightstone is one of Nunavut's newest MLAs, elected back in October, and the youngest. You don't have to tell him about the amount of Maluxy in his riding. He knocked on a lot of doors during the election.
I did come across a few houses that had an aroma.
Right now, the government of Nunavut is holding consultations in communities about the upcoming legalization of Maluxy, complete with a proposed plan. That plan includes a legal age of 19 to purchase, a personal possession limit of 30 grams, and rules about where you can smoke it. There will be no stores for at least a year. All marijuana will be mail ordered. They say they want to stop the black market.
Well, the number one issue is getting it off the black market, getting it regulated, and ensuring that it stays out of the hands of children.
But the government of Nunavut proposal might be as important for what it lacks as what it contains. When Paul Quasso was running for premier back in November, he said he would like to see a regulation system for marijuana similar to the Nunavut alcohol rules. Each Nunavut community can decide whether they allow unrestricted alcohol, alcohol with some restrictions, or no alcohol at all. The plan the government is pitching to the communities doesn't allow for dry communities. Every community would be allowed to legally order. That's bound to be debated at the Assembly.
Personally, I think it is in the community's best interest to make their own decisions on cannabis, and I think we probably should lean in that direction.
Right now, a gram of marijuana costs around $20 in Iqaluit. Go further north to Pond Inlet, you'll pay $60 a gram, $50 if the dealer's overstocked. Most southern dispensaries now charge between $6 and $10 for that same gram. The face of Maluxy is about to change in Nunavut. And at last, Nunavut is starting to plan for that. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
Meanwhile, on the East Coast, the Halifax Regional Municipality took a step toward what it calls reconciliation today. It's voted to remove a statue of the city's controversial founder. APTN's Justin Brake has the story.
So if we want reconciliation, we pull down the statue immediately. We don't discuss.
In a 12-4 vote on Tuesday, Halifax Council supported a motion to immediately remove the statue of Edward Cornwallis and continue with plans to form an expert panel to determine how the city will commemorate a man who once issued a bounty on Mi'kmaq scalps. The decision comes days after the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs called for the statue's immediate removal, saying the review process was taking too long.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. That motion is passed.
Halifax Mayor Mike Savage and most councillors who supported the motion talked about the need for reconciliation, acknowledging that taking the statue down is an important first step.
Because I think a lot of people have evolved, and the whole process of truth and reconciliation, in my view, is about evolving.
Leadership, right? Yeah. Thank you.
Assembly of First Nations Regional Chief Morley Gugu attended the meeting.
I think there was a huge opportunity here for the city of Halifax to show how other municipalities across the country are dealing with the same very question about how do they have new relationship with Indigenous people.
I look at the 500 years of broken promises.
Local Mi'kmaq organizers attended Tuesday's council meeting.
We've been standing for this to come down for a long time. You know, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, they all were part of this. And it's about time that, you know what, we did reconciliate, and the first step does come with taking down our oppressor.
Now that the municipality and Mi'kmaq chiefs have eased tensions, some on council say the real work can begin.
If we do not reconcile with the first people who were here, we can't talk about anything else, because we took this from them. And, you know, any way you look at it, this is a wonderful first step.
And I do feel strongly that we can get there.
Mayor Savage said city staff will determine when to remove the statue and that it will happen soon. Justin Brake, APTN National News, Halifax.
Time for another quick break. When our newscast returns, how the Canadian Senate is taking an interest in Inuit affairs.
A mix of sun and cloud in Fort McMurray, minus 20. Grand Prairie, mostly cloudy, minus 19. Calgary minus 13, mostly cloudy, minus 19, mostly cloudy in Edmonton. Tofino 6 and rain. Kamloops mostly cloudy, plus 2. Dees Lake minus 17, mostly cloudy. Prince George mostly cloudy, minus 2. Mayo minus 28, cloudy. Fort Simpson mostly cloudy, minus 22. Colville Lake a sunny, minus 25. Baker Lake minus 31 under sunny skies. Arviat minus 31 under sunny skies. Clyde River minus 30, some cloud. Taloyuak minus 36 under sunny skies.
Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. Our top story tonight.
The Laughing Drum with host Tim Fontaine. Tuesdays following APTN National News.
Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. Our top story tonight.
The Laughing Drum with host Tim Fontaine. Tuesdays following APTN National News.
The Senate continued to discuss Canada's relationship with Indigenous peoples today. As part of its work, a committee recently heard from Nathan Obed, president of the Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami. He identified one of the biggest roadblocks Inuit face in their relationship with Ottawa.
We are asking for the recognition and the respect for the powers that we actually already have under the Constitution, through the United Nations instruments such as the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. These are just the central tenets of the relationship that we as ITK have to fight for every single day against thousands of public servants and many different Canadian jurisdictions who would rather just not be bothered with this new reality.
And here to talk more about his appearance before that committee on Aboriginal people and other issues, we're joined now by ITK's president, Nathan Obed. Welcome. Mr. Obed, we heard a brief clip there from your appearance before the Senate committee. What would you say the main point was you were trying to get across to them?
Well, my testimony lasted around 2 hours, and so there were many major points. The concern that Inuit have in this era of reconciliation is that we get it right, and that we get it right in a distinctions-based way, which means that there is no one Indigenous reality in this country. There are very specific realities for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, and that also we have done a lot in the last 40 and 50 years to create the environment for the success that we all want today. And for Inuit, it's in relation to land claim agreements and the implementation of land claim agreements, in addition to a new way of thinking about policy development and legislative development in an Inuit Nunangat sense that focuses on our homeland rather than splits it up into different jurisdictional regions within this country.
So what indications do you have as to how well that message was received?
The Senate Standing Committee asked a number of very thoughtful, informed questions, and I felt like we had a very good dialogue this morning. I've been impressed with the recent work of the Senate, especially in relation to the Inuit Nunangat housing report that was released in March of this year, and the rigor that went into the creation of that report, and also into the witnesses that they've heard from this far in relation to the relationship work that they're doing. So I'm encouraged by the work that the senators are doing to understand this place and time, and also to hear from Inuit leadership about the steps necessary to improve the relationship further between Indigenous peoples and the Canadian government.
Well, possibly to that effect, the Senate apparently is going to start a committee related to Arctic issues. What would ITK hope to see come out of that?
It's excellent that Senator Charlie Watt has done the lobbying necessary to ensure that there is an Arctic subcommittee or committee of the Senate, in addition to other senators such as Senator Dennis Patterson from Nunavut. We would hope as Inuit that it would focus on the very real challenges that we have in relation to our socioeconomic status, on our political relationship with the Government of Canada, and also the very helpful way this committee could focus on Arctic issues that then lead into legislative and policy reform. There are very specific realities in relation to our infrastructure, in relation to our governance, that need to be considered when taking any national steps. And I hope that this new Arctic Committee will play a leading role in informing the work that happens in all things that affect the Canadian Arctic.
Now, I understand a senator asked you last week about the emergency meeting, as it was called, about child welfare. How important is that from the Inuit perspective in terms of getting this new relationship with Canada off to a better place?
Children in care and the treatment of children in general in our society is a huge priority for Inuit. We think that the federal government has a significant role to play in ensuring the socioeconomic conditions in our communities are such that parents can provide for children and ensure that they have the tools necessary so that children don't end up in care. But once children are in care, then we need to do more to ensure that they get the proper care they deserve and they don't have to sacrifice their language, their culture, their connection with their family, or their human rights to provide essential services for them. We had constructive conversations last week, and Minister Philpott and Minister Bennett led those conversations from the federal level. I was very happy that public government jurisdictions like the Northwest Territories, Nunavut, Quebec, and Newfoundland and Labrador all were very constructive and proactive in their remarks alongside Inuit leadership.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And just before we leave you this evening, some of you could be in for a truly spectacular celestial event tonight. It's known as a super blue blood. I'm just so excited here. I've lost the ability to speak. Known as a super blue blood moon, you could say it's many moons in one. Not only is it this month's second full moon, it's also a super moon thanks to its brightness and largesse. Or is that largeness? Then, for those lucky enough to live in provinces west of Manitoba, they'll get to see the sphere move into position for a total lunar eclipse. And then, tomorrow morning, a blood moon will be visible from Saskatchewan west when the eclipse phase becomes total. And the moon features an orange-red glow. Wow, what do you think of that? Holy smoke. Thanks for watching us, everyone, tonight. Remember, you can always get the latest stories making headlines in Indigenous country. You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter to get the latest headlines there. And be sure to check out the debut of the renewed Laughing Drum program, hosted by friend and colleague Tim Fontaine. Although rumors are it'll be nothing but a joke. Hopefully many, many jokes. So be sure to tune in for that coming up soon. I'm Rick Harp. We'll talk to you again tomorrow evening. Take care, everyone. Agustin.